My name is Josh Lamers. My pronouns are he, him. I am the executive lead of the Collective of Child Welfare Survivors. We were once a grassroots collective, and we've shifted into being, or hopefully growing into our own organization with the Black People Action Center as our organizational mentor. Our main focus is supporting child welfare survivors between the ages of 15 and 25, particularly those who are Black, Indigenous, and racialized. But we also have ensured that our programming is a little more comprehensive and supports families also navigating child protection investigations and child welfare related issues.
Okay.
Currently with our work, as we've started to open up to referrals and requests for support, a main issue has been child protection investigations and how they're conducted. We've largely actually been supporting parents and caregivers. And I think COVID-19 is a reason for that. It's very difficult to access child welfare survivors who are in foster homes and in group homes with COVID restrictions. And already, in some ways it was difficult to access child welfare survivors. So that's where we've seen our work go. We're hoping, as certain restrictions are being removed and as we are building ourselves more publicly, that we'll be able to access child welfare survivors, particularly Black, Indigenous, and racialized folks, because we know that there are probably major concerns about what they're experiencing. But unfortunately, we don't know that because there isn't much reporting. We have tried to make a very accessible referral process. Our website says, you can call this number. It goes directly to the work line that we have at CCWS. You can email us, you can DM us. We've had folks, message us on Instagram asking for support. I think because of the way in which we hold ourselves as an organization and the principles we stand on in terms of addressing anti-Black racism, decolonization, and critical youth centering, we've also had people come to us kind of through word of mouth and community. And I think that goes to show the kind of organization we are and how folks can trust us. So you can go to our website, you can call us, you can email, you can also engage BLAC if you're unfamiliar with our social media, and they can refer folks to ourselves. And also if you're a community member and you're aware that someone is engaging child welfare and child protection, whether you think that investigation is going well or not, you can always provide our name and our contact information, and we will happily support, again, both children and youth, but also parents and caregivers. So given the back and forth toe that we experienced with COVID, we decided to stick strictly online. And in some ways that is inaccessible, in other ways that has actually made it easier to work across Ontario. So the way that it works is you would connect with us, we do an intake with you online through the phone or through a Zoom call or virtual call, whatever is most accessible. We go through the intake, we try to ask questions that are specifically relevant to the issue and about who you are, so we have a good understanding. We are very intentional about what kind of information we ask because of privacy concerns. We'll inform you as to what we do. For example, CCWS does not provide legal advice or representation. We only provide legal information and referral. When we say we do advocacy, it's very kind of case management based, where we'll sit with you as an individual, we'll work through various issues. So it doesn't just have to be child protection related. We understand that stuff related to criminal punishment systems, psychiatric systems, education systems, especially for child welfare survivors, all of these things are operating in someone's experience. So we also try to understand what these other experiences are in the intake process. We have lovely volunteer individual advocates who have gone through training, not all of which are child welfare survivors, but are people who have experience working in the area, who have some kind of advocacy work experience or working with young people. And so we match folks with an individual advocate who is still supervised by myself or another staff member at CCWS. And we provide active support because, of course, not everyone has all of the answers. So it's also very holistic and community-based in how we interact with one another. And then once there's a match, I guess the pair will meet and get to know one another. And from there, depending on what the issues are, It could be immediate support, but we also understand that there's some situations where someone wants to connect for support that is a little bit not crisis driven and more so dealing with things such as isolation, dealing with things such as community removal. And we also, one of the things that we provide is racial displacement support. We don't use the term transracial because it's a term that's technically impossible. And so we understand that there are folks who, particularly Black, Indigenous, and racialized folks, or specifically those folks who, as they navigate growing, start to realize what they've been removed from and the communities they've been removed from. And so those are kind of the areas that are maybe less crisis driven, but more geared towards like a long-term kind of approach as well. It is our hope to be providing community spaces for child welfare survivors, specifically, whether those be kind of sharing and unpacking spaces, whether they be learning spaces. We also want to be able to provide certain kinds of spaces for families and caregivers. And that's kind of where, and community members, and that's kind of where we engage in public talks. The way that we consider individual advocacy, acknowledging that I'm sure that there are quote unquote good social workers in child protection and folks who desire to make a change, but we consider ourselves kind of the eyes on the child protection worker and on various child welfare actors, whether that be the foster parent, the group home staff, whether that be other organizations related to it, such as PAPE Adolescent Resource Center. And so that is actually supposed to be the position of an individual advocate, which is to be present in those moments. And not to necessarily speak for the young person, taking into account the various strengths and areas of growth that people have. We try not to create a situation of reliance that the young person in interacting with the individual advocate should be actively learning, should have their capacity be developing. Again, understanding that we're not exactly trying to give a workshop to someone while they're in the middle of a crisis, but that even when they're in that crisis, that they understand to the best that we can provide what is happening and what that means for them, rather than them just, being told to trust us and not really understanding how things move, because that's in fact one of the biggest issues that child welfare survivors experience, as well as families and caregivers. There's a resources tab. There's already some resources there that discuss, rights, that discuss how to navigate a family-based child protection investigation. I say family-based because there's also things such as institutional-based, such as if something happens in a school or a group home. So that document doesn't focus on that. It focuses on family-based. And also on that page is a webinar that was put on by the BLAC Legal Action Center by myself as a social justice fellow. And the first half of the seminar discusses kind of what's in those resources under our resource tab, but it also discusses anti-Black racism, what that means, the connections to the histories of slavery and plantation logics. And so that's available. And then this public talk will be posted there as well.